The playoff push begins Thursday in Cleveland. It's time to talk about the X factors, and that push will hit the guards. Since we did Wendell Carter yesterday, it's time for Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is February 21st. It will be February 22nd, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we're going to dive into three important X factors in the Orlando Magic's push to the playoffs. We hit Wendell Carter yesterday. I would highly suggest you go back to yesterday's episode and listen to that because he is also an X factor. But we'll hit the guards. We'll talk about Cole Anthony's roller coaster importance, why Jalen Suggs needs to be the third star, and what the heck is going on with Markelle Fultz. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We hit this a little bit yesterday, and so this is a tease. Go back to yesterday's episode, listen to what we talked about with Wendell Carter. But I think we all know the Orlando Magic are a playoff team. Like they're going to be in the postseason in some form or fashion. They're not going to fall. They're not going to fall on their faces so bad that they'll be out of even the 7-8 game. Like it's probably not going to happen. And we know as we get to this point of the season, we know what we're getting from Paolo Banchero. He's at 23, 6.5, 5 right now. We know what we're getting from Franz Wagner. He averages about 20 points per game, a little bit more than 20 points per game right now. Those two would be the youngest 20-point per game scorers in a very long time in the NBA, if not NBA history, on the same team. And for the Magic, the first pair of 20-point scorers on the same team since Shaq and Penny in 1996. We're talking about some two very, very good players. I don't think we should completely take what we get from them as a given, but I think it's pretty safe to say we know what we're getting from Paolo and Franz every single night. And the difference for the Magic in a lot of ways is who else is going to step up? Who else is going to be a consistent offensive option? Now, Jamal Mosley will tell us we got to do it by committee. It depends on what the defense gives you, but we all know one thing. Someone's got to step up. Someone's got to be that X factor. And we talked a little bit yesterday about Wendell Carter. Again, go back and listen to yesterday's episode if you want the Wendell Carter discussion. Wendell Carter can be that in some ways. Jalen Suggs can be that in a lot of ways. And I want to get to him more specifically in our next segment. But the guy that we need to talk about that's fallen off and is a big part of why the Magic have had some inconsistency of late. Look, the Magic are on this little win streak, 6 of their last 8 games, because Franz Wagner's back and playing at an all-star level, along with Paolo Banchero, who doesn't have to do as much anymore. But no, Carter has played very well. Cole Anthony, though, is a guy that the Magic are counting a lot more on, who hasn't quite given what the Magic need. Look, Cole has played a huge factor on this team. The Magic have one of the highest scoring benches in the league. I believe they're still in the top 5 in the league in bench scoring. And Cole Anthony is a big part of that. Cole Anthony and Mo Wagner were 2 players in the early running for 6th man of the year. They've both since fallen off. And Cole especially has had a wild roller coaster of a season. In the first 20 games of the season, the Magic were 14-6. Cole Anthony averaged 15.2 points per game on 37.2% shooting from three. This was a clear sign that Cole Anthony could be one of the top bench players in the league. However, and obviously we're missing some games here, we'll get to his full numbers in a minute. In the last 20 games, Anthony's averaged 8.3 points per game, shot 25.5% from three. His effective field goal percentage of 44% ranks 139th among guards who played at least 10 games in the same time frame. Quite simply, Anthony's production is cut almost in half. And it's a wonder the Magic have been so successful. For the season as a whole, Anthony is averaging 11.9 points per game, which is a career low, by the way, as well as shooting 48.8% effective field goal percentage and 32.6% from three. This has been a down year for Cole Anthony. And it was a year that started off really, really well. Now, some of this could be attributed to injury. Cole's been dealing with a quad injury. He's been playing through it. He won't make excuses. Neither should anyone else. He should be playing a lot better. The Magic should be getting a lot more from Cole Anthony. They're just hoping to get him right. And so hopefully, knocking extremely on wood, the All-Star break allowed him to get his body right. That's one of the reasons why we have the All-Star break. Give guys with those little knocks, those little injuries, those nagging injuries that aren't enough to keep you out, but enough to slow you down. Get those guys off their feet for a few days, heal up, and get ready for this stretch run. And look, Anthony has had strong showings after the All-Star break. He had a 35-game stretch last year where he averaged 11.6 points per game and 32.7 from deep, but he finished the season last year after the All-Star break averaging 14.9 points per game and shooting 41.8%. Like we talked about with Wendell Carter missing 15 to 20 games a year, and that happened again this year, obviously. Cole Anthony might be a player who starts off fast, kind of burns out, gets figured out, gets a little injury here and there, all that stuff, and then finishes the season really strong. The Magic have to hope that that is the case, and it is going to be something that we're going to be watching, because this team becomes a different team when Cole Anthony is playing really well. We're talking about X factors. We're talking about guys that get the Magic over the hump. Cole Anthony is one of those players. Cole Anthony is someone that can accelerate this team's time, can accelerate this team a little bit. They run Franz a lot at point. He plays a lot with Franz. He plays a lot with Joe Ingles, who helps him out a lot, taking the ball out of his hands and making him more of a scorer than a point guard. But Anthony has to make those little in-between floaters, and that's where he's really struggled. His two-point field goal percentage is way down this year. And so if he can hit those floaters and get that timing back, that lift back, he becomes a much different player. And this is what the Magic are hoping to see. Like, plain and simple, this is what the Magic need. They need that punch off the bench. They need that spark plug. They need that burst score off the bench in Cole Anthony. Because, again, we know their offense isn't good. We know they're going to struggle on the offensive end. And so to have an offensive-minded player like Cole Anthony not scoring, that's a huge factor, especially because despite his effort, and I want to be absolutely clear on this, Cole Anthony tries really hard on defense. He's gotten a lot better on defense. But teams are going to target him. And in the playoffs, that's going to be a problem. The Magic need Cole Anthony scoring really, really badly. And to me, he is one of the biggest X factors that I'm watching over these last 27 games. Because he does really change this team. Another player who changes this team defensively for sure is Jalen Suggs. Why Jalen Suggs has to be an offensive spark for the Magic to get where they want to go. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word for our friends over at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals. It's billion with a B, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making that process even easier and quicker to find the person that you need. 2.5 small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring, and you should too. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. It's obviously not just Cole Anthony. It's obviously not just Wendell Carter. Like, I will admit, when Jamal Mosley says we've got to be by committee, I get that's a coachism that I don't always enjoy. I'm usually pretty permissive about coachisms and saying, okay, what does this really mean? How do we speak the same language? Like, how do I evaluate the team the way that at least I imagine the coaches are evaluating the team? The by committee thing, I struggle with that because I do think you need to have kind of set roles. Now, where I will agree with the by committee thing, and maybe where I think that Jamal Mosley ultimately goes with this, is I do agree that you have to be flexible. Like, you may have visions of what everyone's role is, but you have to be flexible and say, okay, if the game calls for this, then we need to do that. We need to be, we can't be so rigid, and so much of what this Magic team does is not be rigid or beholden to preconceived ideas. Yes, Jamal Mosley can sometimes be a tick late adjusting, but, you watch, the first half may be scripted. The second half, Mosley's going to roll with what he believes is going to work, and it can be different every game. And so in that case, being able to be by committee is really, really important. But like I said, we know the pecking order here. We know that Paolo and Franz are going to have the ball in their hands a lot. The Magic are going to run a lot of stuff through them. And where I think the by committee stuff gets fudgy is the Magic do need a third guy. And look, it doesn't have to be a consistent 20-point per game scorer. It could be the same guy 2 nights, another guy one night. Like, that's what the Magic are aiming for. Sometimes the game calls for Wendell Carter to have a big game. Done. Sometimes the game calls for Cole Anthony to have a big game. He can do it. Sometimes the game calls for Jalen Suggs to have a big game. And I think what the Magic are trying to figure out, and I think what they want to see as we get to the playoffs, as we get deeper into the postseason, I think they want to see, can Jalen Suggs step his game up and be that support the Magic need? That could be support as a shooter, where he has taken dramatic strides as a shooter this year, shooting 38.4% from floor. He was 32.7% last year, 31.7% for his career. His volume is up to 5.4 per game, which is not a volume 3-point shooter, but he's making his threes. That's great. He's shooting 44.5% from floor, 12.3 points per game. That's all really, really good. The Magic know what they're getting from him defensively. His assists are down. He is being more selective about how he drives and smarter about how he attacks. But the Magic need a third guy. They need to know, who are we going to turn to when they bottle up Paolo and Franz? Who is going to be a guy that can set those guys up sometimes for easier shots? We're going to talk about Markelle a little bit here in a minute, but maybe they thought Markelle could be that guy. Maybe they thought Wendell Carter could be that guy operating out of the high post or in pick and pops. Jalen Suggs has to begin to be that guy. And again, the splits tell you all you need to know. In the Magic's wins this season, in the 26 wins that Jalen Suggs has played in this year. Let me make sure I'm on the right year real fast. Yeah, I am. In the 26 wins that Jalen Suggs has played this year, he averages 13.2 points per game, shoots 39.3% from beyond the arc, and 45.8% from the floor overall. The Magic are plus 10.7. And the 24 losses that Jalen Suggs has played, Orlando's 30-25, by the way, for reference, he shoots still a pretty robust 37.6% from beyond the arc, but only 43.1% from the floor. Only 11.5 points per game. And so you're looking at a guy, and the Magic are minus 20.1 points per game when in those losses. That may not be completely accurate, but we'll go with it. Plus 10.7 in wins, minus 20.1 in losses. As far as net rating, there it is. That might be it. Yeah, that might be it. It's kind of simple then. Suggs isn't a 15-point per game scorer. And I think one of the disappointments when the Magic were struggling with all the injuries that they were struggling with, I think one of the disappointments is the Magic wanted to see if Suggs could step up to the plate with Franz out. When Franz Wagner was out, the Magic were searching for somebody to help Paolo Banchero. We talked about it here, that Paolo needed help. He needed one more guy to be consistent. And yeah, Jalen was sick for part of the season. The Magic needed Jalen Suggs right there. And if you're looking for clues of okay, what do the Magic need to do? Where do they need to go? How they need to expand and grow? This is part of it. This is part of the information the Magic needed to have. And again, the playoffs are going to be a huge test. Again, look no further than last Tuesday's game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Magic got 4 3-pointers from Jalen Suggs in the first half. They were in the game. They took the lead. He was, I think, 1 for 7 the rest of the game. He was 4 for 5 and 1 from 3, 1 for 7 the rest of the game. The Magic were never in it. At this juncture, the Magic kind of go how Jalen Suggs goes. The Magic kind of need Jalen Suggs to be a reliable three-point shooter and to be a more dynamic scorer. Again, the splits don't tell the whole story. 2 points per game isn't a huge difference. It's not about output. It's about the impact that output makes. Jalen Suggs hitting a bunch of threes, getting the crowd into it, getting into it defensively, that changes this team. Again, X factor. Someone who changes the game if they break the right way. Suggs, when he breaks the right way, is really good. Really good. Someone who can make a very real impact. And look, we know what we're going to get from him defensively. Suggs is that guy defensively. He's got to get after people defensively. We've been waiting for Suggs' offense to catch up. And it's caught up a little bit this year. I'm not sitting here trashing Jalen Suggs or saying he's not good enough. He's been awesome this year. But we're dealing with the playoffs now. We're dealing with a best-of-7 series. We're dealing with pressure games. And we need to find out whether Jalen Suggs can be a third star and be really a big part of this core, or whether he's kind of simply a role player. And I think that's one of the things we're going to discover the rest of this season. There's a little bit of news about Markelle Fultz, some shocking news about Markelle Fultz, actually. We'll talk about why he's important coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word for our friends over at FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. Remember, the Magic have the best record in the league against the spread. Betting on the Magic would have netted you a ton of money this year. We'll see if the betting lines hold up. Remember, just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot today. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We did have a little bit of news that came out late Wednesday. When we talked to Jamal Mosley at practice on Wednesday, I asked him, everyone get through practice, so get through the first 2 days of practice. Okay, Jamal was quick to say, yes, everyone's good to go. Then the injury report came out. Obviously, the expected Jet Howard, Kevon Harris are in the G League. But Markelle Fultz was on the injury list. He is officially out for Thursday's game as he continues left knee injury management. Immediately when this came out, I was at dinner when the injury report came out with family. People texted me saying, "What's the deal with Markelle Fultz? Why is he out?" And I was just like, I have no clue. It caught me by surprise too. I tweeted out the official injury report, including that Donovan Mitchell's questionable for tomorrow's game, for Thursday's game as well. And immediately people just kind of, it was one collective Jean-Luc Picard facepalm emoji or GIF or whatever. I don't have an answer, folks. Like, I don't know the rhyme or the reason. I have no information to tell you what's going on with Markelle Fultz. All I can say is the injury problems, the injury maintenance, the frustration over all this. The Magic are trying to do right by the player. If he's not good to go, if they feel they need to maintain the injury or he's sore or something, or they want to check something out, that's what they're doing. It's not some grand conspiracy or anything. It's probably part of a plan. It's probably part of a protocol. And I will agree with everyone that feels frustrated and tired of this. The Magic are not at a stage where they can do this anymore. We do have a back-to-back coming up this weekend. I assume Markelle Fultz is only playing in one of those games. We are not at a stage, this franchise is not at a stage where they can wait on injuries anymore. They can maybe do it with one guy. They can take one injury risk, and right now that should be Jonathan Isaac. And Jonathan Isaac's been fairly healthy this season. I feel your frustration. I feel the frustration for Markelle because I'm sure all he wants to do is play. And this is a team decision. This is, potentially a mutual decision, but this is part of the process and part of the plan. And as Jamal Mosley's always said, the plan has always been to have Markelle Fultz available for the long term. We are in the long term now. We are in the end game now. We're 27 games to the end of the season. We're not quite in the final quarter of the season yet, but we are in the end game. We are in the sprint. We see the finish line. We know the stakes of every single one of these games. The Magic need their point guard. And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Markelle Fultz is the point guard for this team's future. I love Markelle. He is a great dude. I'm always going to be a fan of his. I'm always going to be cheering him on. I want him to have success. He's averaging 8.4 points per game, the lowest since coming to Orlando. 3.7 assists per game is the lowest since his second year in Philadelphia. So his lowest in Orlando. First time he's under 5 assists per game. He's played only 21 games. He's averaging 24 minutes per game. He's 1 for 7 on threes. You have to say that because he's not shooting threes. He looks rough. And maybe this season is a wash because of the knee injury, but the Magic have decisions to make about their future. And we can clearly see it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see teams don't care if Markelle Fultz is open. They are roaming. They are leaving him. They're putting their worst defender on him. They are hiding guys on him. They're putting centers on him so they can roam the paint. Markelle Fultz is a problem for this team. And it's a problem that the Magic, chose not to solve at the trade deadline, for better or for worse. And a problem the Magic have to resolve this offseason. We talked, a little bit about offseason stuff yesterday. To me, the biggest priority for the Magic is to find a starting point guard, at least for the next 2 seasons. The injury stuff makes me feel like it's not Markelle Fultz. Availability is your best ability. And right now, Markelle is not available. And that part is frustrating. Having said all that, Markelle Fultz is still incredibly valuable for this team. He is still their best point guard option. Jalen Suggs is not quite a point guard. Anthony Black is not quite a point guard. As good as they both are, Markelle Fultz is still vitally important to this team. And I think he still has a positive effect on this team. He may drain the offense a little bit, but he's solid defensively. He gets guys in the right spots. He calms everyone down. He runs the offense really, really well, as long as the ball is sort of in his hands and he can, kind of duck and hide a little bit. It's been a challenge, like no doubt about it. But Fultz is an X factor too, because when he plays and he's aggressive, he makes this team better. Again, is that the ideal? Is that the final form of this team? Is that something the Magic should spend another 3 years, $17 million per on? No, I don't think so. I don't see the Magic giving him a new contract this summer. I think they know that they need something different at that position. But for this team and for what this team is trying to accomplish, Markelle Fultz is still really, really important. Just looking at some basic numbers, according to Basketball Reference. Markelle Fultz has a 2.3 defensive box plus minus, which is really good. His defense has been very, very good. Overall, and let me see if I could find it. Overall, the Magic are plus 2.2 points per 100 possessions when he is on the floor. So the Magic are still ultimately a better team when he is on the floor. That matters, right? That means something. And the Magic are 1.7 points per 100 possessions better when he's on the floor compared to off the floor. Now, that's not the same as it was in 2021 when they were plus 4.3 or 2022 when he was plus 4.8. But the Magic are better with Markelle Fultz on the floor. The numbers say that. And so, despite all the shortcomings, despite all the problems that might exist, Markelle Fultz still matters. And yes, it is extremely frustrating that after a week off, Markelle Fultz is going through injury maintenance. I don't want to question the Magic. I'm sure they have a good reason. I'm sure it follows their protocols. It's still frustrating. I'm sure it's as frustrating for them and for Markelle as it is for fans who just want this dude healthy. But the Magic have to find a way. And again, they're going to be missing a key player for a big game Thursday night. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places on podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can catch us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic or go to youtube.com/@LockedOnMagic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. And be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. You can find that on YouTube and now available on the Amazon Fire TV, and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts who know their team best of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. That's going to do it for me today, though. We're going to check you out again tomorrow. We'll recap the Magic's game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Until then, though, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.